Hello, are you ready? Are you ready for Frindle Chapter 8? I am. All right, Chapter 8 is called Mightier Than the Sword. It's a very interesting chapter title, and I want you to think for a second what that could mean in the context of the book Frindle. Mightier than a sword. So think about what a sword is. Think about how it could be mighty. Think about something that could be mightier than a sword. So when you use ER at the end of the word, it means you're comparing it to something else. So you have something that's mighty, then you have something that's mightier. Okay? So are you thinking about something that could be mightier than a sword? Okay, I have some ideas in my mind. I'm thinking about, well, I'm not going to tell you because I know what happens in the book. Never mind. I changed my mind, sorry. All right, Chapter 8, Mightier Than a Sword. 2 days later, the photographer came to take class pictures. The 5th grade picture would be taken last, right after lunch. That gave Nick and his secret agents plenty of time, and they whispered something into the ear of every 5th grader. All the individual pictures had been taken, and finally it was time for the group picture. Everyone was lined up on the auditorium stage, everyone's hair looked great, and everyone was smiling. But when the photographer said, "Say cheese," no one did. Instead, every kid said, what do you think? Frindle! And they held up one for the camera to see. The photographer was out of film, so that shot was the only 5th grade group picture that he took. What? 6 of the 5th grade teachers were not pleased, and Mrs. Granger was furious. No one had really wanted to make the teachers mad. It was just fun. It also got all the kids in the school talking about the new word. And when people picked up a new word, they say it all the time. The kids at Lincoln Elementary School liked Nick's new word a lot. But not Mrs. Granger. The day after the class picture, she made an announcement to each of her classes, and she posted a notice on the main bulletin board by the office. Anyone who is heard using the word Frindle instead of the word pen will stay after school and write this sentence 100 times. I am writing this punishment with a pen. Signed, Mrs. Granger. That just made everyone want to use Nick's new word even more. Staying after school with the lone Granger became a badge of honor. There were kids in her classroom every day after school. It went on like that for a couple of weeks. The lone Granger, did you hear that? It's a funny nickname. One day near the end of 7th period, Mrs. Granger asked Nick to come talk to her after school. "This is not detention, Nicholas. I just want to talk." Nick was excited. It was kind of like a conference during a war. One side waves a white flag of surrender, and the generals come out and talk. General Nicholas Allen. Nick liked the sound of that. He stuck his head in Mrs. Granger's doorway after school. "You want to talk to me?" "Yes, Nicholas. Please come in and and sit down." When he was settled, she looked at him and said, "Don't you think this Frindle business has gone far enough? It's just a disruption to the school, don't you think?" Nick swallowed hard, but he said, "I don't think there's anything wrong with it. It's just fun. And it really is a real word. It's not a bad word, it's just different. And besides, it's how words really change, isn't it? That's what you said." Mrs. Grange sighed. "It is how a word could be made up brand new, I suppose, but the word pen? Should it really be replaced by that other word? The word pen has a long, rich history. It comes from the Latin word for feather, pinna, It started to become our word pen because quills made from feathers were some of the first writing tools ever made. It's a word that comes from somewhere. It makes sense, Nicholas. But Frindle makes just as much sense to me, said Nick, and after all, didn't somebody just make up the word pinna too? That got a spark from Mrs. Granger's eye. But all she said was, then you are not going to stop this? And Nick looked right in her eyes and said, well, a bunch of my friends and I took an oath about using the word, and we have to keep our promise. And besides, I don't think there's anything wrong with it. I like my word. Nick tried to look brave like a good general should. Very well, then. I thought it would end up this way. Mrs. Granger pulled a fat white envelope from her desk drawer and held it up. This is a letter I have written you, Nicholas. Nick held out his hand, thinking she was going to give it to him, but she didn't. I am not going to send it to you until all this is over. I want you to sign your name and today's date across the back of the envelope. When you read it, whenever that may be, you will know it is the same letter and that I have not made any changes to it. This is weird, Nick thought to himself. But to Mrs. Granger, he said, sure, and he put his name in his best cursive and put the date under it. Then Mrs. Granger stood up abruptly and said, then that is all for today, Nicholas, and may the best word win. There was a frown on her face, but her eyes were different, almost happy. And Nick was halfway down the hall before it hit him. She likes this war, and she wants to win real bad. Oh, wait, here's an illustration for you. Is that illustration like something you might have pictured in your head while you were listening, reading? Walking to school the next day, Pete had a great idea. How about we see if we can get every kid in the whole 5th grade to go up and ask Mrs. Granger, can I borrow a Frindle? You mean, Mrs. Granger, may I borrow a Frindle? Said Dave. Gotta use good grammar. Don't want to upset dangerous Grangerous. Sounds good to me, said Nick. She can't keep everyone after school, can she? Almost 80 kids stayed after school with Mrs. Granger that day. They filled her room and spilled out into the hallway. The principal had to stay late to help, and they had to arrange 2 special late buses to get all the kids home. That's a lot. And the next day, all the 5th graders did it again, and so did a lot of other students. Over 200 kids. Parents called to complain. The school bus drivers threatened to go on strike. And then the school board and superintendent got involved. And about this time, the principal of Lincoln Elementary School paid a little visit to the home of Mr. and Mrs. Allen. She wanted to talk to them about their son, the one in 5th grade, the one named Nick. So things have gotten to that level where there are so many students who are getting involved with using the word Frindle instead of pen, that they all are staying after detention, that they all are having to take special buses home after school, the principal is having to help, and now the principal is going to Nick's house to talk to his parents. Holy moly, can you imagine if that happened to you? I would not be good with it. So what is going to happen? Like, we understand where this plot could be going now. What do you think? What do you think's going to happen next? You can always send me a message. You can always send me a dojo message. You can comment down below. Or you can send me an email. Whatever. I would love to hear your thoughts. You guys have some very good imaginations. I love it. I miss you very much. I hope you're doing well. Hope you have a really good day today whenever it is that you listen to this. And I just want you to know that I care about you so very much. All right. Bye.